Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm going to be finishing off my Night Time Spooks marathon for you guys, and this first video I'm reacting to is 4 True Zoom Call Horror Stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
A couple of months ago, I had a meeting for work through Zoom.
Okay.
Normally, we would conduct the meetings in person, but due to COVID-19, we were forced to work from our homes.
That would be a pain in the butt. I know schools had to do something similar with teachers and students so they could still do schoolwork, even though they had to either Skype or Zoom call their teacher. But I figured office management jobs had to do that too, which I know that could be a technical nightmare if you don't have no internet access. Thank God I didn't have to deal with that while I was in school, or I'm not working in no job that has to have Zoom call meetings all the time. But anyway, let's continue on with the story and see what happens next.
We were also forced to have our meetings from home through Zoom, which allows you to video chat with multiple people at once. Our meetings generally did not have many people in them, just the ones in our area, which was around 4 to 5 people usually. That day, it was just Jen, Ann, Tony, and me. This was our third Zoom meeting that we were having. About 10 minutes into the meeting, our coworker Jen got up suddenly and said she would be right back. Because there were only 4 of us that day, we decided to wait for her to return before we continued the meeting. It got very quiet on the call. I was about to get up and go get some water when I heard Jen scream on the Zoom call. Then she said something. I couldn't make out what it was because it sounded like she was far away from her computer. A couple of us called out to her to see if she was okay.
Okay, first of all, this is your third Zoom call? Golly. I'm the type of person that if I was in a meeting, I'd be like, hopefully it'll be just a one and done. But if you hear one of your coworkers scream and she don't respond back, red flags will be going up in the air for me. So she either sees somebody out her window stalking her, or somebody snuck into her apartment planning on robbing her or something. I don't know. But I'm already getting curious at this point. So let's just see what happened.
Then we heard a man's voice. All of us sat there in silence, wondering what was going on for about a minute. We heard Jen's voice again. It was faint and clearly coming from another room, but we could make out her saying please several times. Then we heard a man talking again, but couldn't make out what he was saying. About another minute passed before we saw a man come into the frame of Jen's Zoom screen.
Okay, at this point, I'll be like calling the cops, because if you see another man pop up in your coworker's Zoom screen, then she probably got attacked and is knocked out conscious.
He was wearing a black jacket and a baseball cap pulled down. He also had a scruffy-looking beard. He looked around the room. When he saw us on the screen, he looked surprised and then walked over and ended Jen's Zoom call. We were all very confused as to what happened, but we decided to call the police because we were afraid the man was going to harm Jen.
Thank you for doing that.
Thankfully, one of our coworkers on the call, Ann, knew Jen's address and reported the incident. We tried calling Jen multiple times, but couldn't get through. We ended the call and waited to find out any information of what happened. Finally, we found out that the man we saw on the call had knocked on Jen's apartment door, and as soon as she opened it, he forced himself inside with the intentions of robbing her. He took all of her cash as well as some of her valuable items and left, but was tracked down by police not long after.
Thank God she ain't dead. This is why if you're living in like an apartment or you're living in a house that has a door with a peephole and you hear somebody knocking, look through the peephole. And if you don't recognize that person, I wouldn't even open it at all. But that's how burglars or thieves get you. They trick you into opening up your door, and then they force themselves in with a weapon drawn just to demand you to hand over their cash or any valuables. But thank God the police found that dude I know that jerk will be spending some time in jail for what he did. I'm just glad that their coworker is not physically hurt. But I know she was scared to death. Let's continue on to story number 2.
This story happened a couple of months ago. One of my best friend's name is Alex. Her and I grew up together and have remained close over the years.
Well, that's cool.
We both recently graduated from college, and she moved away across the country to begin her job. She was able to get a nice old little house in the city that her job was in. I was happy for her, and we planned to have a Zoom call after she had finished unpacking her things.
Yeah, that's cool that your friend was able to find a nice old house in the area that she was applying for a job at after college. A Zoom call is always perfect just to catch up with people that are always moving out long distance. And they can give you like a virtual tour of the place before you even make a visit yourself. But let's continue.
At about 9 o'clock at night, she called me, and we chatted for a while. Then I asked her to give me a tour of her new house. She took her laptop and carried it around, showing me the rooms. She showed me her kitchen, living room, and her bedroom, then showed me that she even had a little crawl space above the bedroom hallway. I asked to see it, and she said that she hadn't even looked at it yet. She said it was mostly for storage and nothing was really up there. Then she unlatched the handle and opened it. She told me she was too short to see up there and held her laptop up over her head so that only I could see what was up there, and did a little 360 spin so I could see around the crawl space. But when I looked around the crawl space, I thought I saw a person as she was turning the camera around. She asked me what it was like up there. I told her I thought I saw somebody. She started laughing and then began closing up the crawl space. I told her I was serious. She suddenly stopped laughing and asked me what I saw exactly. I told her I couldn't really see because it was dark, but it really looked like a person was up there.
Okay, I'll be taking that seriously. I'm glad the friend stopped laughing, because if it was one of them friends that just pass it off as like you imagining stuff or seeing things, I'll be like furious, be like, no, I'm telling you, there really is somebody there. If I heard that, I'll be like grabbing the phone and calling the cops after I close the crawl space up so that person won't get out, which I hope this person does before it's too late.
She got a chair and went back to the crawl space. She set down her laptop so I couldn't see anymore. About 30 seconds later, I heard her scream, and then she picked her laptop back up and told me there was definitely a man up there. She ran out to her car and called the police. She stayed in her car talking to me the entire time until they showed up. Then she ended our call. She called me back later that night to tell me that police went to her house to find the man still in her crawl space, and he was taken away. The man appeared to have been living there for several weeks and was very dirty. That was definitely the craziest Zoom call I ever had.
I'll say it's the craziest story I've ever heard. Just imagine you're on a Zoom call giving a tour of the place, and then your friend said there might have been a guy up there. And when you go back to check it, lo and behold, there was. But thankfully, that guy did not put up a fight and knock her out just for him to slide out of the crawl space and leave quickly. He stayed there, and the cops got him out of there. If he's a homeless person, hopefully they take him to a shelter. But really, if I was a homeless person and I noticed that somebody was moving into the property, I would have been like, okay, good hiding spot is going to be noticed pretty soon, so I got to go. But thank God the friend noticed him, and she called the cops and got him out of there, and don't have to worry about him climbing down from the crawl space just to steal food or use the bathroom. Man, that's creepy.
This past spring, I was on a Zoom call with two of my friends. We were under a quarantine at the time, so we couldn't hang out in person the way we liked to. We started the call pretty late at night because one of my friends had just gotten off of work. We were all on the call for about 5 minutes before another person joined. This surprised us because we didn't tell anybody else about our call. It was supposed to just be the three of us. When the person's screen showed up, We saw it was somebody wearing a creepy clown mask. I was a little freaked out. We thought this had to be some kind of prank by one of our friends. We asked the person who they were, but they didn't say anything. They just sat there looking directly in the camera. Then they started moving back and forth slowly, and after a while, they pointed at the screen with their hand, which was covered in a glove.
Okay, I would have been yelling through the screen, "This better be a prank. If not, what are you doing on our little Zoom chat? We didn't invite you." Probably one of them internet stalkers is probably going to threaten them on where they live at. That's my guess.
Whoever this was, we were all getting creeped out by this and decided to end the call and start a new one a few minutes later. When we did, only about a minute into the call this time, the same person joined. They kept pointing at the screen and staring. My friends and I had enough and ended the call for good this time. We texted each other in a group chat instead and talked about how creepy it was. One of us decided to contact Zoom and report the incident.
I was about to say, you should be doing that because it seems like Zoom's security is not helping block anybody that's not supposed to be on your call with each other. But man, I would have been finding a way to like cut the camera off on that person's call just so we get them off the screen.
We figured someone was hacking into our call somehow. I started watching Netflix in my apartment before bed. I was starting to get sleepy when I turned over and looked out my window. I just about had a heart attack at what I saw. Standing on the side of the road, facing my apartment, staring right at my window, was a man in the creepy clown mask we had seen on our Zoom call. My apartment was on the 3rd floor, and he was a good 150 feet away, but I still got incredibly scared. When he saw me, he started slowly waving. It was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. Then he turned and slowly walked away, looking directly at me the entire time. I closed my blinds and turned off all my lights. Then I texted all of my friends what had happened. I kept looking out my window for several hours, but the man never came back. I didn't get much sleep that night at all. I haven't seen that clown guy since, and I hope I never do again. I still get creeped out every time I think about it.
Man, I don't blame you because I'll be creeped out too. I was wondering why that clown guy kept pointing at the screen. I thought, oh crap, is he pointing at one of the guys in the Zoom call? Turned out it was the one that's telling the story. He probably hacked the Zoom call thing and figured out his name and located his address on his computer. Man, that would be creepy. At this point, I would have been calling the cops and tell them what that guy looks like and see if they could track down any man wearing a clown mask and arrest him for stalking and invasion of privacy charges, you know. Thank God he didn't see him again because I would have definitely been moving.
I used Zoom a lot this past spring with the whole quarantine situation and everything getting shut down. It took me a while to get used to it, but after a little bit, I really enjoyed it. I talked with a few of my friends, but mainly used it for school at the end of the year because my in-person classes got canceled. I remained at my college apartment because I enjoyed living alone and I needed to live there until my rent expired because my roommate went home. One night, I was in my room talking to 3 of my friends on Zoom who went to different universities. We were discussing school and how it was going for us when one of my friends asked how my brother was doing. "He's good," I said. "Why is that?" My friend said, "Because he just walked behind you and video bombed you," and then my friend started laughing. I suddenly got the chills. "My brother isn't here," I said. "He's back home." My friends asked me who that was behind me then. I asked what the person looked like. They said they couldn't see the person's head, but they only saw they were wearing a black hoodie and jeans and walked in the back of my room. I quickly ran to my door, shut it, and locked it as well. I debated calling the police, but I decided to ask my friends a few more questions about the person because I thought there was a chance they could be pranking me. But just a few seconds later, I heard my doorknob start to turn. My heart started pounding, and I felt myself start to sweat. I decided to call the police. When I got on the line with them, they told me to wait there and they would have somebody over in a few minutes. Then I heard footsteps walking around the rest of my house. I tried my best to stay calm. Then I heard my front door shut, and I figured the person left. The police showed up a few minutes later, and sure enough, the person was long gone. They searched my apartment, but didn't find anyone. At that point, there wasn't much they could do, because I didn't have a description of the person. After the officers left, I packed up all of my stuff and drove home.
I figured that man that was sneaking in his apartment must have heard him close the door and was calling the cops. Since his friends alerted him of his presence, he decided to book it out the door before the cops got there. And I don't blame him for packing up and going home that quick, because I wouldn't want to stay in that apartment much longer if that guy came back. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Nighttime Spooks reactions like this. This has been another successful installment of Tin Man's Core Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.